Two things to say. Good morning, and there's sunshine here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which after the last 2 days is a huge relief and very pleasant to say. Hi folks, Lee Diffie along with the Mayor of Hinchtown, James Hinchcliffe, for day 3 of practice in the lead up to the 108th running of the Indianapolis 500, but more importantly, probably the biggest opportunity to get a lot of running. And straight up, early up this morning, Dylan Welsh and Georgia Henneberry are on pit road to gather all of the updated information. And we do have some updated information as soon as we come on the air, and Dylan Welsh can tell us more. Good morning, Dylan.
Hey, Diff, good morning. Yeah, so Kyle Larson watching full effect here for the last couple of days, and it's going to be a little bit of a delayed start for them this morning. Had to make an engine change here. Just saw some things that they didn't like with the engine that they had in the car yesterday and on Tuesday, so just kind of a precautionary thing to make sure nothing catastrophic happens on the racetrack. So this is the new engine that's in the race car. About 5 minutes ago, they just finished firing it up. Have some Chevrolet techs down here as well, just monitoring everything. Sounded good. I think it all looks good, and right now they're just kind of putting the underbody back on the car and making sure everything is tightened up and ready to go. Goal is to be on track here in the next hour, so by 11 o'clock. So going to be a little bit of a delayed start and a shorter day for Larson, but just wants to try to get some qualifying sims in today, and then obviously get more comfortable in traffic as well, and if that opportunity presents itself.
We've seen Pato do his run. Now Rossi's on track. Hilot in the pits on deck, ready to go. And this is a great opportunity for the teams to really assess the difference in the cars. I bet they have all these cars with the exact same aerodynamic configuration, and trying to see what the pace of these cars are. Here's a quick onboard replay with Rossi. Oh, whoa, way too low into turn 2. You got to remember, you're sort of turning into the sun there, Diff. It's kind of hard this early in the morning. We're not normally on track till noon. Sun's a little bit higher, but it's a bit blinding. And maybe Rossi just turned in a little early, thinking he had a bit more room. A 2:14 kind of explains the speed.
That's a wake-up, isn't it? That's enough to get your attention first thing on day 3. Here on screen, the driver of the yellow submarine would love those results. He has not had a top 10 in his 3 starts thus far. And when you're talking about Scott McLaughlin, that kind of boggles the brain a little bit.
It does, for sure. I mean, you got to think it's a limited number of starts, certainly. And yes, Joseph Newgarden was sort of an exceptional race car on Sunday yesterday from the 17th qualifying position, put himself up front to be fighting for and ultimately taking the win at the end of the day. But I think it's safe to say that the Penske cars were not the quickest necessarily over the month. And again, Joseph doing a phenomenal job dragging that car up to the front of the field. But it's not been what we've seen out of Ganassi the last few years. And so McLaughlin kind of dealing with, machinery that's not necessarily peak performance at the track the last few seasons. Still getting used to racing here, racing on ovals. But when you look at what this guy has accomplished, it is kind of surprising that he doesn't have that result here at the Speedway yet.
This is Helio Castroneves' 24th Indy 500. That's staggering.
It truly is. I mean, the longevity of this driver here, and he doesn't give up his line. We talked about it yesterday, Kevin and I. He's got such a unique line around this Speedway. It's one that I always really liked in qualifying. I don't know how he makes it work in the race the way he does, but clearly it does work. And still just as fast as ever. Won it last back in 2021. Thinks he understands what went wrong last year in terms of, he admitted he misunderstood the tire, maybe got the engineers going in a bit of a wrong direction for what he wanted out of the car. And he feels a lot more tuned in this year, a lot more cognizant of what the tire needs, what the car needs to get the tire there, and what he needs to get the car there. So it's potentially bad news for the rest of this group if Helio's feeling strong.
Well, you're not going to phase him, right? You're not going to phase him at the beginning of the race. You're not going to phase him in the middle or the end of the race. And we've spoken over the years, folks, about the multi-phases of the Indianapolis 500. The first 50, the second 50, the third 50. And within the last quarter of this race, there's a race within a race, and that's the last 20 laps. And if this guy is anywhere near the front in those last 20, You're going to hear genuine excitement from us, that's for sure. The drive for 5 is alive. This guy here, we know how good Marcus Ericsson is when it counts because he has been in the thick of it at the end of the last 2 Indianapolis 500s. The most exhilarating finishes, nerve-wracking stoppages involved in both the last 2 races with this guy at the front, and he almost went back-to-back last year for a bonus of in excess of $400,000 from Borg-Warner. That bonus has escalated again this year because nobody has won back-to-back since Helio Castro-Neves, the man we were just eavesdropping on.
And this is fascinating to watch on board, Dick. This kind of shows you all the things the driver's having to manage on a qualifying run. This is a great back-to-back comparison with his teammate Colton Herta. He is all alone on the racetrack. Alex Rossi's now just pulled out in front, but he's had a few laps. You see his thumb there on the left button. He's going to hit that when those green lights start flashing. That's the weight jacker. They're doing this fast jacking technique to try to get a little bit of extra speed on the long straights. Watch out of 4 here. His right thumb will come, hit a button. That's going to lower the right rear of the car, make it a little bit more nose up in attitude. We see a front bar adjustment. Now his left thumb is going. He's got to hit the weight to get back to the left-hand side before he turns into 1. This is all while trying to keep it perfectly positioned on the absolute ideal line. There's no shift strategy required here. He's holding a 5th gear pattern, so when it's low wind, you can get away with 1 speeding on a qualifying sim. And now that he's caught up to the back of Rossi, decides to get out of it and not finish that. But his no-toe time was just in the mid-222s, I believe.
Yeah.
And then people started tacking on. Did you see that line of cars on the apron? They all want to come play.
Let the party begin. And we're only in the first hour. Look at this. This feels like Fast Friday. And it's early Thursday.
This feels like Carb Day.
Yeah.
I mean, this is drivers really getting into it quickly. You see Penske's at the top of the train there. Pillow behind. Looks like Dixon joined. Pato Award. Then you've got another Ganassi, Marcus Armstrong. That looks like Ed Carpenter behind, all on outlaps, trying to get into this mix. As McLaughlin goes around Will Power to lead this.
So let's take you back and show you just a moment ago, there's some frustration between a couple of drivers. This is Santino Ferrucci and Linus Lundqvist. Oof.
Yeah, Linus going slow there on an in-lap, probably trying to cool the car down maybe after a qualifying. And I get it from Ferrucci's standpoint. You know, you've got to be so heads up when you're cruising around trying to cool the car down, or you're trying to fall back in traffic. You've got to be very specific and deliberate with how and where you slow down, because the closing rates can be so high. And when you catch a car mid-corner, there's so little that you can do as the car that's doing the catching. And, you know, Linus, a rookie to the 500, a rookie to the IndyCar Series. These little lessons kind of have to be learned in these practice days.
He's the man who has the best 4-lap average this morning, Colton Herta in the Gainbridge Honda. Let's go for a ride. Have a listen.
Guys, this is a very impressive run from Colton Herta so far. He's catching a little bit of traffic, the 78 of Augustine Canapino, but his first lap very, very fast. That fell within the non-tow filter. It was a 224.1. You see another 224.1 again. Now he's getting a bit of the draft, so we're kind of losing the outright pace. But that first lap qualified as a non-tow lap. That is a big lap time. And you see him working hard. He's working the fast jacker. He's got a different shifting strategy than what we saw on that first run. Shifting between fifth gear, sixth gear. Well, it was fourth and fifth gear when he was out on his own. It's changed to fifth and sixth. You know, you run a very different gear stack for a quali sim than you will for a race run, which again is why often after a quali sim, the car's got to go back to the garage before you can come back out and start some race running. But, you know, this is a driver that started on the front row before. He started second back in 2021. And so far, he is looking very stout of the drivers that have done quali sims to be in the fight for pole this year. And here's Catherine Lang, Dale Coyne Racing entry.
Catherine spoke very openly and honestly yesterday, just saying, look, you know, these other teams, these other drivers, the majority of them are doing this week in, week out. I am not. I'm back for my next attempt a year on. If our teammate Townsend Bell was here, he will be later on today and tomorrow and throughout qualifying weekend. He can speak firsthand at what it's like of being Hinch, a one-off, you know, meaning the Indy 500 is the one and only IndyCar race you do that year, and you've got to kind of parachute in, get up to speed quickly and execute. And Catherine was very straightforward yesterday, just saying, look, you know, I'm getting up to speed the best I can. It's a different team. It was Rahal Letterman Lanigan last year. It's Dale Coyne Racing this year. There's a lot to take in. She qualified for the field last year straight up, and that's subjective number one this week as the HendrickCars.com Arrow McLaren Chevy rolls out to pit lane for Kyle Larson. Little delayed because of a precautionary engine change earlier this morning, but Kyle will be on track sooner rather than later.
We also got word there was another precautionary engine change for the number 24 of Connor Daly. So we see Larson making his way out to pit lane. So you want to fall back to third, fifth, 10th. As we take a look back, you see Rossi up there. A little bit of a defensive move from Grosjean, but
that's
commitment.
within a tire width. That's within a rear tire width of the wall.
Yeah, plenty of room. Plenty of room. Watch it from Rossi's vantage point.
Come on.
Oh, you heard him just hesitate on the throttle there.
Wow.
Everybody playing nice. Grosjean backing out of it eventually.
Nobody's ever questioned Alexander's bravery, by the way.
Never. Not once. Not once, not never.
Oh, my. Alexander Rossi ahead of Pato. Oh, what, and a big crash. That's Linus Lundqvist into the wall. The rookie finds out the hard way how the Speedway bites on this Thursday practice session. Oh, boy. He was tucked in behind the Arrow McLaren duo and the American Legion Honda into the wall.
You see the head just drop there, the disappointment in the body language of Linus Lundqvist. Hopefully he's okay. Big hit. You see the damage, the marks there on the safer barrier. Turn 2 has caught out so many, especially over the last few years, Diff. It really just seems like one of the big problem areas, especially when running in traffic.
That was reminiscent of Romain Grosjean in the race last year.
Just thinking the same thing. You see Lundqvist 6 on the time charts right now, top rookie. AMR safety team, as always, quick to get to the car, assessing the driver's condition.
As always, we thank the AMR safety team. Always there, so fast, to the driver's aid. First things first is the health and well-being of the driver, and then they'll deal with the car second. That was a big hit for Linus Lundqvist
See a member of the medical staff there. And the lack of urgency, I think, gives you a little hope that everything's okay there with Linus inside the car.
He is physically one of the bigger IndyCar drivers. He is a very strong, fit, strong young man, but that doesn't matter. The magnitude of a hit like that doesn't matter how you're physically constructed. That's gonna knock you about.
Well, you know, chatting to him a few weekends ago in Barber, he was telling us about his MMA background.
Yeah, exactly.
The kind of training he does, and so good to see him standing up under his own power.
All right, now we know that he is okay. Let's show you a replay. Look to the lower side of your screen. Wow. That could have been a lot worse, actually, Diff. He managed to hang on to that thing in a slide a lot longer than you normally do. And then to not have the car hook back to the inside wall. He just lost the rear of the car pretty early on turn in. And just a gentle glance there. Just that dejected look. This is a young man who won the Indy Next Championship a couple of years ago. He is thrilled to be in IndyCar. He knows how special it is to get this opportunity of Chip Ganassi Racing, and knowing Linus the way we do, he's just gutted for his team and everybody who has to be on the car to make those repairs. That's the last thing that any of the drivers want to happen, but good to see Dylan that he is okay and walking to the medical car by himself.
Yeah, certainly that's the most important thing, and as you'd expect, and as we saw there kind of with that head bow, he came on the radio right away. Blair Julian, his strategist, said, "You okay?" And he said, "Yeah." He said, "Holy cow," and just kind of took a deep breath and a sigh and said, "I'm so sorry, guys." But never quit driving that thing. At least did a good job to kind of keep it out of the inside retaining wall, and they'll obviously go back here and get it fixed up, and maybe we'll get to see him out here at the end of the day.
There was a moment earlier this month with Grosjean on track. Is there any else that you'd like to mention towards it?
I mean, obviously with guys like that, you know, they think that they can pop a pass real late, and they're not going to lift, and then they're just going to wreck two race cars. So, I mean, Elio did the same thing with me when I was learning here as a rookie. Clearly, he's not a rookie, but he's just not getting it, and it's okay. I mean, everybody learns at a different rate, but no, I want to take care of our equipment, and, you know, if you send one underneath, you just put us both at risk, so hence why, you know, I kind of threw it down there a little bit, just to kind of protect me more so than anybody else. But he'll figure it out at some point. He's a smart dude.
As now we see two of the Penske cars. Like we said, we were looking at Joseph Newgarden. Looked like he was waiting for someone. Looks like he was waiting for Will Power.
So these two have the track to themselves, and obviously trying to stick around each other. So we talk a lot about the big packs and what you can learn in those conditions. What can you learn here with just one other car out there?
Well, look, you hope that you're qualifying up front, and this is what Team Penske wants to see for the first 150 laps of the race on Sunday, is 2 to 3 of their cars running up front, trading positions. We've seen this orchestrated passing back and forth from the Ganassi cars the last few years, really just trying to manage the race from the front. So yeah, while it is beneficial to know what your car does in a 10-car train, this is what you really hope you're dealing with, is clean air or 1, 2, maybe 3 cars in front. So it's important to try it all.
Both of these guys, Indianapolis 500 winners, of course. Exactly what they're looking for.
Both of them 2-time champions as well.
Yep. You can see Power starting to draft up, and like you said, James, they'll get that coordinated swap. You're the trailing car there like Newgarden. It's so important to just try to get tucked back in line right away. You don't want to get out there in the marbles. You don't want to lose too much ground. Be as efficient as you can. And you see Newgarden did it well. He's already got another big run here out of turn 4.
See, what I hope is that these guys aren't lifting to let each other by, and this is actually the kind of pace we're going to see. But based on their speeds, looks pretty legit. So that's showing that these two cars they're, you know, we call it sucking up on the car in front. Sometimes a car just doesn't suck up very well. These two look like they're able to get that run, make those passes happen. but keep that average pace up. That's exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about, is practicing that coordinated effort. And then, as you said, Dylan, from the driver's seat, knowing how to get past is almost as important as knowing how to pass. Knowing when to lift, how to fall back into the dirty air, fall back in line without losing too much speed, losing too much momentum, and making yourself susceptible to getting past from another car behind. And that's what these drivers are working on right now. And look, it's easy. Out of the pits, first 5, 6, 7 laps, tires are fresh. You only got one car in front of you. You feel like, you know, you got the mushroom in Mario Kart. You can just go right by guys. But as you get to 10, 12, 15 laps on a set of tires, that really starts to change. Being able to run close through the corners gets a lot harder. You got to start tuning the car a little bit more. You know, you saw Joseph there. He made that pass, even turning in from the inside of the back straight. He didn't have to lift in 3. At some point, you're going to have to start cranking tools in order to make that car turn in clean air versus dirty air.
So back in the garage area, one of the stories we've been checking into is we heard Alexander Rossi say, about an hour ago, that they lost power, and he was a little bit uncertain as to what the issue was. At first they thought it was maybe a half shaft, and then they were looking into, is it a gearbox? What is the other issue? Once they got it back here, they had kind of a guesstimate. And in basic terms, a component failed in the drivetrain, not in the drivetrain. It's not engine related. So this is I wouldn't say an easy fix, but it's a relatively easy fix. But it does take a little bit of time. So as you can see, they're still putting things back together and probably could be ready to go back out in about 45 minutes or so. Certainly good to find it now, because it is one of those failures. If it happened during the race, it would end your race. So the next question for Alexander Rossi and the Arrow McLaren 7 team is, do they come back out and work more in race trim, or do they go ahead and shift to qualifying sims? Ideally, that's what they would be doing. We're to the point in the afternoon where they would like to do some more qualifying runs, but they may not have gotten all the way through their checklist as far as race running is concerned. So that's still a little bit TBD, but we should see the 7 car out there in the next hour and a half.
And what can you tell us is the latest on the 8 car?
So still an evaluation as to what exactly needs to be replaced. So IndyCar officials are back here, Dallara officials as well. So there's no exact timeline. They're still taking the car apart. That's the first thing that you have to do to see what needs to be replaced. So it's still several hours away, but at this point we know new gearbox is needed, right rear corner, right front, body work, the rear wing. But all of that said, I was told that as far as oval crashes go, this one wasn't that bad. You can have certainly way worse, and with a hit that significant, this is not that bad as far as oval crashes are concerned. So there is still a hope, the goal to get out at some point today before the end of 6 o'clock.
Really big time and big moment, and saying singular moment because it's the month of May for this guy, Tom Blomqvist, who did do a lot of open wheel racing in his early years before touring cars and sports cars, and then he impressed Jim Meyer and Mike Shanks so much in their sports car team, in their IMSA WeatherTech sports car team, where he was a champion, is a champion, and two-time Rolex 24 winner. They said, let's give this guy a shot in IndyCar. Let's test him. Testing went well. They said, we're going to offer him a full-time job, full-time drive. And this is Tom's first full season. You were around him a little bit last year in the select races that he did. How big a task is that in your mind?
Yeah, he kind of came in and showed some pretty tough races. I mean, coming to mind, especially Toronto, that is one of the toughest circuits when it comes from a physical standpoint, also just how different IndyCar is from anything else. So he's took some pretty big challenges on to kind of get into it, and he's definitely taken a massive step up going into this season. And I haven't spoke to him, but I'm pretty sure he probably went to the gym after his first experiences of the IndyCar.
He's over that hump now, he says with a lot of pride that it no longer is, because in those early races, he was very open and transparent as we joined Connor Daly. Tom was really transparent in saying, like, this is tough. It's tough to hang on to. No power steering in an IndyCar. And he said, I'm struggling. And he did work really hard in the off-season with diet, with caloric intake, hitting the gym, It wasn't like he wasn't training before, right? You guys are elite athletes, and but he had to up it and shift his training regimen in a different way just to be able to handle an IndyCar over the course of a full race. Here is Marco Andretti back at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, back where he gave us one of the most exhilarating experiences, where we got to witness an Andretti on pole at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway several years ago. It's the high point of his career. It was amazing to see his dad Michael and granddad Mario and everybody celebrating on pit road. That when he did that was just so brilliant.
Yeah, no, it was very cool. And they have, honestly, I really believe these Andrettis are having some good speed this year. So maybe he has another opportunity to do something special.
So you see the top speeds on the graphic on your screen. They were all set earlier today. So 226.5 for Marco. Where does the 98 fall on the 4-lap averages? I'm looking. He's in 8th.
Yeah.
He's in 8th. That's good. That's more than respectable. So Connor Daly, Joseph Newgarden has turned 71 laps. Scotty Mack in the yellow submarine, 64 laps. Will Power, 63. So Team Penske, they were working. Wow, look at this. Look at this. Herder up the inside of the technical partner in Felix Rosenqvist from Meyer Shank. There's Kyle Larson having a quick chat to Ed Carpenter. Selfies, autographs. The man is in demand, and rightly so.
This is essentially a team practice right here. You've got the 3 Meyer Shank cars and 2 of the Andretti Global entries. Like you say, that technical partnership, so 5 cars all running. They could be coordinated to the point where they've decided that each will take turns running at the front. Marco Andretti, the back of that, failed as well. So 6 cars total from the organization of a possible 7. Only Kyle Kirkwood not out there.
Double. What he'd like is some more laps, and as I understand it, the idea today was to get out there and get in with the group, and then the group all went home, and your team went back and set you up for qualifying now.
Yeah, I thought the weather was going to be good. I'd get lots of laps today, and everybody else would turn to laps except me. So, yeah, it's been a bit boring and frustrating, but yeah, just we're finishing, swapping over to Q-Sim or whatever that entails, and then yeah, just go out there, make some laps and see what kind of speed we have, and I'm not sure what they're trying to learn or what they learned from qualifying sim stuff, but yeah, hopefully there's something I can take away from it, and just getting familiar with, you know, cockpit adjustments and all that throughout a qualifying run. So that's what I'm looking to take out of it.
And so for those wondering why Kyle's car was so far down the charts today, it is because he was out in race trim but not racing with anybody. Now you're going to be in the fast trim. How will that be different for you, and especially with that muscle memory stuff that you're trying to get down?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to be different. I've been trying to listen to other drivers' interviews and stuff, and it sounds just, you know, like the car just doesn't feel as good, I guess, because it's more trimmed out. You know, the balance is probably not quite as stuck, but yeah, I guess I'll learn here in a minute. But yeah, no, it's just been a long day of not a whole lot. So I just honestly want to just get out there and make some laps and kill some time.
Kyle Larson back out onto the speedway, and going back to Callum Ilott for a minute too. I think back on his month of May last year and just how emotionally draining that was for him. I remember when I think I interviewed him after he was safely in the show, and you could feel the weight of what he had gone through just to get a car that was frankly drivable around this racetrack, what he had gone through just to get to that point. And would have to imagine, it's never a guarantee, but have to imagine you go through something like that and it puts you in a little bit of a different headspace when you come back the next year, and obviously with a different team. But if you can get through that and grind it out the way he did last year and ultimately led laps and finished 12th in the race, I think that's got to be a little bit inspiring and confidence building for sure.
And I think one of the big things from last year was, you know, initially he was complaining that something just didn't feel right in the car. The team was reluctant to make a change. I get it. You're talking to a driver that's done one Indy 500. You're looking at the possibility of having to do a massive amount of work to switch chassis. you want to try to exhaust all the options before you do that. Once they did, there was a noticeable difference for him. So for me, from the driver's standpoint, I think it's great for Callum's confidence that he felt a problem with the car, even though it may have taken a little bit longer than he would have liked for the team to act on it. Once they did, it proved that his feeling was correct. So he can sleep at night knowing that he does have a good feel for these things on the ovals. And now with this organization looking to just kind of keep building up on that momentum.
Yeah, great point. Some information that he can take from some different teams. Oh, car in the wall in turn 4. That's one of the Andretti cars. Marcus Ericsson, big time crash.
And he might catch the attenuator. Oh, 3 impacts outside of turn 4, inside of turn 4, and then the attenuator, massive shunt for the number 28.
Okay. Great news there. You hear Marcus saying he is okay. That was a huge collision there at the exit of turn 4, left side first, completely flattened that number 28 Honda.
We talked about after Linus Lundqvist's incident in turn 2 how it was a quote-unquote light wreck for an oval. This is the comparison. I mean, look at the state of the left side of this car compared to what we saw from the number 8.
Great to see him climbing out. Be a little gingerly on that right knee, it looked like. It looks like he's walking okay.
You know, your adrenaline's up in this moment. You know, he might find a bruise or two.
Well, that attenuator did its job to keep him really from kind of spinning down pit road.
And remember, this is a bit of a challenging situation. There's cars on track that can't get into pit lane right now. So I imagine they just have to sort of circle around under caution. So here we are, turn 4, just gets down onto that curb. It upset the car just a tiny bit, and by the time he caught it, he was out in the gray, nothing he could do, hands off the wheel. Oh. Every one of those impacts just sucks.
You okay, bud? You okay? Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, it's such a small thing. You're so focused on the car in front. You are trying to keep your car low to make sure you can get a little bit of clean air on the left side of your front wing, trying to get a little bit more front grip. And if you get the tiniest bit too low, that can be the result. And it's, you know, we've seen in the past drivers getting on that curb and being able to catch it, but so far 2 for 2 touching the curb.
Look at the safer barrier flex when he hit there.
You talk to any driver from the pre-safer barrier generation, the difference in hitting that versus a straight concrete wall, absolutely massive. Huge safety innovation pioneered here at the Speedway. Something that all drivers are incredibly thankful for.
Great job by all those cars there to weave their way through the debris and ultimately miss Ericsson. And then this last hit coming here onto that attenuator. He launches this cone onto the front straightaway as well.
So when you start trying to do the inventory of damage to that car, you know, we talk so much about, that's just so ugly. They've done a great job with that attenuator, though. We've seen some big shunts. I think back to Spencer Pigot a few years ago. That was a massive accident that luckily he walked away from in real time. But just thinking again about, you know, how much effort goes into all the different components of these cars. You've got your tub, you've got the body fit. Well, the bodywork's all gone off that car. The underwing is a very important one. Well, that's destroyed on certainly the left side. You can replace them left to right. On board here with Rosenqvist.
Back row. Stay low. Stay low. Pit.
Oh, yeah, and tried to get in there. He heard the call, try and dive into pit road.
Right side.
Great job to avoid that, though.
Yeah, you don't want to go in at 150 miles an hour. Ericsson into the medical car. As always, AMR safety team there very quickly. So, yeah, you just see, I mean, potentially damage to the actual chassis where the suspension pickup points are. Gearbox potentially damaged, upright certainly on one side damaged, and again, these are all the components that you put extra love and attention into to build the perfect Speedway car.
Yeah, that's just it, right? It's stating the obvious, but these cars are as finely tuned and precisely put together and crafted as any car that they'll race all year.
Marcus, first and foremost, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay. Obviously, it was quite a decent hit, but yeah, the safety in these cars are pretty impressive, so feeling okay.
Is there anything that you could have done differently in that situation?
Yeah, I need to watch it back. Obviously lost it in the middle there, so I don't know if I brushed the curve a bit. Yeah, I think I brushed the curve a little bit, and that probably is enough to send it. And then you're a passenger. So yeah, very disappointed, very sorry for my team. You know, they've done a really good job, and they have a lot of work ahead of them now. So that's yeah, probably the worst with the whole thing.
Yeah, obviously we already talked to Marcus Ericsson when he was released, but I'm back at the Andretti garages right now, and I want to show you some of the damage from Ericsson's car right here. This is his left rear tire, and you can see just how sheared and just how hard of an impact that was on the left side of the car. You can also come around right here and see just pieces of the nose that was absolutely shredded. You can see one piece right here. You come back right here. There's another one. So lots of damage to the car. Right now, they don't know the official amount of damage. They're taking it all the way down. They're taking the engine out of it just to assess the tub damage right now. So they're going to work hard on that, but you know, just the impact that had on the 28 car, so severe, guys.
For more on Scott McLaughlin, here's Dave Burns.
He would seemingly be a big part of Fast Friday. We shall find out. Just checked in with his crew, and he's getting ready for some qualifying simulation now, less the 100 horsepower, which will be added to his effort tomorrow. Showing you some very important things on the screen there right now.
He's watching golf. He's paying attention to golf as the PGA Championship.
There you go. So the race trims was decent earlier today, but now they've had one sort of an installation run for the quali trim. It was good. They like what they had, so they're getting ready as soon as the track is cleared. Send Scott out and see what he can do. Hopefully get a 4-lap run or 2 in here to see what it may have before the 100 horsepower is added.
I'm glad these guys that, you know, before they go out here and go 230 miles an hour can just chill. You know, Colton was on Instagram yesterday. Scott's looking at golf scores. Like,
got to stay loose, man.
Hanging out.
You got to stay loose. You know, you got to stay mentally stimulated, because you can fall asleep in those cars. They are custom molded seats made to fit you. You're basically in a laying down position. You're wearing a pillow and a shell around your head. It is you're warm, you're cozy. It's very easy to fall asleep. And the last thing you want to do is get woken up by the sound of the engine getting cranked behind you, flip the switch, and frantically leave the pit lane trying to remember where you are. So, yeah, he's just staying chill, staying free, staying loose.
Under pause for this. It has kind of broken up a little bit as we get closer to the center of town here. And that's good.
I got to say, I don't think the weather's been very kind at all.
No,
sure.
Yeah, it has not been kind to that area in red right there.
Oh, that's
the Ducks like it.
That's an airport code. I'm just kidding. I know. Rossi would be very disappointed in me if I didn't know that that's what that was.
The Ducks have really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I just want to stick up for the weather here.
Yeah, all the marine life as the ponds have been filled up in the infield, and it has been it's been one of those weeks with the wind blowing and all that green on the radar, unfortunately, heading this way. It doesn't appear to be, as we've said, raining all that hard, but it's just enough that you can't get cars out here, and we see some starting to turn around and head back towards the garage, which is never a good sign with an hour and 16 minutes remaining.
We thought, just when we thought the day may have been done, it is not, with just under 26 minutes left on the clock. Look at that. The green flag here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and the sound of Indy cars rolling off pit lane. Well, one at least, anyway. Welcome back, folks. Lee Diffie along with James Hinchcliffe. And yes, there are several drivers keen to make the most of what they can over these next 25 minutes. Why not? Race control has deemed the track dry enough to send cars out, and Romain Grosjean is keen to capitalize on that. Considering how much time was lost yesterday, Hinch, 25 minutes is better than nothing.
Well, I think that's just it. They want to give these teams and drivers as much track time as physically possible with what we've already missed. Still the threat of losing a little bit of track time tomorrow. And so cars are on track. Romain Grosjean, the first car to take to the speedway, but several more on pit lane. We got drivers strapped in like Larson. I see Pietro Fittipaldi. Will Powers getting belted in. among others. So we're going to see, I'm not going to say frantic activity or flurry of activity, because we have seen a lot of cars go back to the garage. They've called their time on today, but we're certainly going to see some action over this last 24 minutes.
And Romain Grosjean not hanging about either. He is building to speed very quickly in the Juncos Hollinger Chevrolet. Romain is 16th on the speed charts from today, has logged 72 laps, which is a decent day. But overall, in comparison to, like if you wanted to say a normal day, whatever constitutes a normal day, and a day that is made up of no weather delays, the total lap count, Hinch, is down considerably today on what a regular day would be. And we've got a third car on track. It is Kyle Larson. Here we go. He's been a little bit, he sounded a little frustrated before because there has not been a lot of on-track running for him today. There was a precautionary engine change that was done right at the beginning of the day, so he missed an entire hour, actually about an hour and a quarter.
And with how much running we've lost from weather, it's just not really running he wants to lose. I don't want to say it's running he can't afford to lose. That might be pushing it a little bit, but certainly not running that he wants to lose. And for Kyle, this is as much about getting into the rhythm of a qualifying run. You see him having to make engine adjustments there, shifting. This is his first flying lap. His warm-up lap was a 2:16. That's not a bad warm-up lap. You see a car down low coming out of the pits. Let's watch through 3 and 4. Maximum lights going in. It's perfectly geared. Going into turn 3, just getting up to the soft limiter in 6th gear. Might be looking at downshift there. You see the thumbs coming up, making some adjustments. First lap for Larson. A 2:22.5.
Nice.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot to learn, and the yellow flag is out as we see the 24 of Connor Daly slowly crawling down the back straight. He's made it to the pit decel lane.
He complained about something about the front end on the radio, and then now you see this slow roll here.
And again, that's the reason for this caution, with 12 minutes left on a big Thursday, an important day. Just the one brief weather hold, 2 other punctuations in the day, and that was because of Linus Lundqvist and Marcus Ericsson crashing, but both those Swedish drivers are okay.
Something about the right front doesn't look right, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe I'm making that up. Maybe I'm inventing things.
All right, check this out. Get your eagle eye on this, Hinch.
So trying to keep an eye on that. Right. Oh yeah, you see a little bit of smoke coming off the right front. That means it's working against the racetrack. Maybe there's something internally in the upright or brake drag. But Dave Burns managed to catch up with the driver of the 24.
Just got his helmet off there. What'd you feel? What'd you see?
The coming out of 4 on our last lap, just the right front collapsed, and I was like, whoa, that's a lot more exit understeer than I thought. And it looked like the right front wheel was loose, but it looks like it's something with the upright or something on the right front. So yeah, I don't know, but it was like it was super easy run, great run, and then all of a sudden I was like, whoa, well, this is a bit weird, and then it like shook and vibrated down the front straight, and I was like, I better get this thing slowed down. So very glad that was not worse, because that could have been really, really bad. But I'm glad we found it today before tomorrow for sure.
And Diff, standard practice is over. Now we go into Fast Friday. Here's how it shook out. Pato O'Ward led the field with a 2:28.8. Scott McLaughlin in second. Below Herta Newgarden round out your top 5. Linus Lundqvist quick on the board despite the accident about midway through the day.
So that kind of balances things for him, right? To know that he had some good speed.
Reminiscent of Alex Palou
yeah,
in his first year with Ganassi, and he bounced back just fine.
Yes, he did. Most certainly did. Let your eyes walk through that graphic, because there's some interesting stories there as well. Christian Lundgaard down in 30th. He'll be looking to lift that a little bit tomorrow. Kyle Larson didn't exactly get the lappage. Can we say lappage? That's not really a word, is it? But you know what I mean. He didn't get the amount of laps, the lap count that he wanted to get done. So tomorrow will be an important day.